distribute contraceptives at every doorstep. Right? We have that staff, we have polio workers, we have community health workers. We can do that anytime. We don't. So how to spend that money is also clear. The third thing that is a governance issue, and you know, I realized this when I was health minister. In fact, what I did at the time was, I told my staff that every BHU, every primary healthcare center must, in its set of key metrics, have family planning as one of them, because by bifurcating family planning or population planning or whatever we want to call it from health, we have actually created this need to buy land for new family planning centers, to recruit more staff for helping with family planning when all the staff exists within the health center. So the third action that needs to be taken is to have the population or family planning departments integrated with health, so you can use the benefit of the health ecosystem that already exists. And my last point is the enablers around all this. And that enabler is where I disagree with you on the NFC is, right? That while the 80 billion on population may be a small figure, what actually drives a reduction in the fertility rate? Better education, better health, increased economic prosperity. You see it, including in Pakistan, where the economic development is high, education will be high, and the fertility rate drops. But how do you improve education and health outcomes? Education spending is 2% of GDP. There is a consensus in the country, including in many conferences like this, that it should be at least 4% of GDP. That is another 2 trillion rupees that the provinces need to spend. Health spending is less than 1% of GDP, doubling it to 2% of GDP, which is still below global developing country benchmarks, less than half of global development country benchmarks, is another 1 trillion rupees. We need to give the provinces 3 trillion rupees across health and education to get more teachers. If anyone's seen hospitals in the periphery of Pakistan, people stay away from them because of the quality of infrastructure in them, because we don't believe in Pakistan in spending in what we called, when I was at McKinsey, OPEX, operational expenditure. We build structures and then we leave them to rot. So if we were actually to invest that in health and education, we need to increase the size of the NFC pie so that the provinces get more. Now, that doesn't mean that the federal government doesn't have a hole to bridge, gap, but the answer is not to take 1 trillion rupees from the provinces and give them to the federal government, because it will further impact service delivery. It will actually mean that finding the 80 to 100 billion for population will become an issue, because the provinces will be 1 trillion rupees shorter than they are today. That discussion isn't happening. The only discussion I see happening is that the provinces are flush with cash and the federal government is broke. The provinces are not flush with cash if you actually want to invest in the development of Pakistan, and this is particularly true in the smaller provinces. By the way, the last thing on this, change the NFC, change it from the population, but that does not necessarily mean, that cannot mean that the more backward provinces get less. Because if you look at any definition of any instrument such as the NFC, its primary objective is fiscal equalization. Sindh can generate revenue from the port, Punjab can generate revenue because it's the population hub and the breadbasket of Pakistan and hence attracts industry. Balochistan is a massive challenge, and in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the two competitive advantages that we potentially have: one, trade with Afghanistan is closed, it's a policy decision. Two, we can actually be the energy hub of the country, but energy is being taken away from the provinces, whether it's gas or whether it's electricity, and therefore we are that little northwest corner that gets blamed for things, but that the center doesn't fund or realize that it has actually landlocked into a set of conditions where for us to develop our economy in the way that we can, the state of Pakistan doesn't allow us and tells us it's in the national interest, right?
Right.
So if you are actually going to shift the NFC, last sentence, I looked at India's formula today, because people keep quoting that India has moved away from population as a primary factor. It has, but what is the element of the formula that gets the greatest proportion of NFC sharing in India? It's something called tax gap. That means, no sir, it means that the states in India that are the furthest behind in revenue generation get the greatest share because of this need
Level
for
of
fiscal
backwardness.
equalization.
Thank you very much.
50%.
I think Taimur Sahib, you also hit the nail on the head. Very good. Especially on the issue of, it's not about money, it's about the political willingness to do this and also the role of the bureaucracy, which you pointed out. Thank you so much. Dr. Farooq Sattar Sahib, why is it that after every population census, there is a hue and cry from the MQM, especially from Karachi, about the population figures being, he talked of that Form 47 is applied in Karachi and population. Why is that? Is it linked with the allocation of resources, or it is politicizing an issue which should not be politicized because the national interest demands a consensus on population?
Thank you, Mushahid Hussain and Zeba Sattar and her Population Council and Dawn Media Group for inviting all of us and giving us this opportunity of sharing our views on this very important national issue with a very august audience that is just sitting in front of me. Now, taking a lead from this, I am coming from a city which is very complex, Mushahid Bhai, and it will not be a justice that while we are sitting in Islamabad and do a sort of an analysis on the very stated policy of any political party. It's not only my party. It is the other parties in Karachi, whether it is Jamaat Islami, PTI or MQM. All of these three parties have been making hue and cry after the holding of every census. So there is something seriously wrong in the approach of conducting the census. But this time along the last census that were held in 2023, because of a close watch, some vigilance and monitoring, and some access that we had because of the digital census that were carried out, we were able to catch the thief also who was suppressing, who was snatching away a big chunk of Karachi's population so that it could not get registered in the official results of the census. And because of that, 38 to 40 special teams were sent by SN Iqbal, the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister to Karachi. And then when they digged out the evidences that we shared with them, the population then of Karachi for the first time in last 60 years has gone up from 32 to 37% of sin. Otherwise, a city, I did not hear any of my predecessors. Everybody mostly was speaking on the unchecked growth of population, and that is the 2.6 or 2.7% population growth rate with which Pakistan's population is growing. But there was a very little or less talk on the population increase because of the influx, because of the economic migration. And Karachi is under, I think, an immense pressure of the influx of population, and it is continuing. Every year, 100,000 adults are born in Karachi. हर साल 1,17,000 साल से बड़ी उम्र के 18 साल से बड़ी उम्र के बच्चे पैदा हो रहे हैं वहाँ पर. This is a fact, and even Lahore, I think, is also because of the influx, it is also going to be same, yeah. So, this is one thing that, where does this influx thing or the real count of this influx or even the natural growth is accounted for in the censuses that have been held. I don't want to go into the detail of the censuses that have been held since 1951, मैं उसमें detail में नहीं जा रहा, but then what I have to say कि जो उजड़े और फिर न बसे, ये दिल वो निराली बस्ती है, बस्ती बसना खेल नहीं है, बसते बसते बस्ती है. Now, may all, the hearts of all of you remain inhabited by good people, memories of good people, and may our neighborhoods, our cities, and our societies also remain inhabited by people who spend a quality life, who spend a life which they deserve. And for that, I've seen that the mist is getting clear. Even the Islamic Ideology Council very recently, because of the sustained and proactive effort of the Population Council, I would like to commend their efforts. And now, Zeba Sattar, yeah. And now, yeah, because of her efforts, Islamic Ideology Council even has conceded that this population control thing is not un-Islamic. I think this is a very good progress made by the Population Council, and the parliamentary forum which has been regularly sitting on this population issue is also contributing a lot. Then the second good achievement was made by the parliament, that another resolution has recently been passed, and there is a consensus across the board. All parties have come along and supported this resolution. The third thing that has happened is the Prime Minister, who has formed a special task committee on this, and has asked the task committee to submit the report as soon as possible, as early as possible, which is again. Now, if all these things have happened and have converged, and the mist is getting cleared, that behind this underlying problem of unchecked growth of population, every problem in our national sector has emanated from this problem. This is the mother of all problems. So this need, the same, a national consensus is now needed, through a national consensus. Otherwise, Zeba, Sattar's and Dawn Media Group efforts will be an exercise in futility if very soon an all parties conference is not held, which should be attended by the top leaders of all parties. And they come to, before the 250 million people of Pakistan, and make a commitment and formulate a national narrative, which should suggest that if there is anything to be incorporated in the 28th constitutional amendment, if that the 28th constitutional amendment is somewhere being discussed, then what legislations are required to make this population control thing very in a settled way acceptable by people of coming from different ethnic backgrounds, different tribal backgrounds, and some other backgrounds also.
ठीक है.
One thing that I think that was missed in the earlier discussion was the role of local governments. Now, what we are discussing and focusing, that policy has to be made by the federal government, and provinces are actually the owners of this issue, subject population control. Then, but the main instrument or tool of delivery, wherever the success of one child policy in China is very clearly and categorically attributable to the role of local governments in China. Local governments in China, they played this role, reaching, because the parliamentarians.
For that, you need the Communist Party of China. We don't have that.
But it is their large-heartedness, na? That this is a one-party rule, but they have devolved and have empowered local government system. There are
Yes.
15 parties who contest the elections for the local governments. And those parties contest and they try to deliver more and more on anything that is their responsibility. So, responsibility devoid of authority is not for an effective government. Our local governments are merely showpiece. 140A has been interpreted completely in different way by every provincial government. So the laws that exist, the local government laws are completely in contradiction and violation to the spirit of Article 148. Despite that, Justice Gulzar Ahmad Sheikh, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, has adjudicated that this is the elaboration, this is the spirit of the evolution of financial, administrative, and
Thank you,
political
Dr.
power. And there are 200,000 councillors in the wards, chairman in the UCs, chairman in Tehsil and town councils. Then, then there are mayors and deputy mayors and UC chairman in the metropolitan and municipal council. So why are we not using this local governments as the tool? Even lady health workers, जो कि polio, which are on ground sometimes and sometimes they're not, for this eradication of polio, for anti-polio drive. Why they are not clubbed
Yes.
under the Department of Health and preventive health care of the local governments?
Thank you,
Why are they
Dr.
not?
Your point about local government is very well taken.
Yes,
And I think
in
that,
the NFC,
Oh, yeah.
agreeing and disagreeing with Jhagra sahab that population should not be discarded and revenue generation or uh, uh, areas which are non-developed, they should be considered. I think then we can do this because the allocation and the distribution that is being done by the NFC between the center and the provinces get an inherent allocation of the 30 districts in Sindh, 42 districts in Punjab, 38 districts in KPK, and 34 districts in Balochistan. So, is there any guarantee in the constitution that the share of the districts is properly being allocated to the districts from the provincial government of Sindh, Punjab, Balochistan, or KPK? And then there are regional issues also, urban and rural Sindh, Hazara division versus KPK. So we have to address.
Dr. Sir, we are running short of time.
हाँ मुझे पता है लेकिन ये
Your point is, I think, very valid. Yes.
what I would suggest in the current National Finance Commission to those who are evolving a formula NFC award. So I think that when they distribute whatever is the 82% population, 5% revenue, non-area or non-developed or whatever is the criteria, then they should also consider that 60% or 70% of the provincial share that is coming from the center actually belongs to the development work for the infrastructure development in the cities and districts. So they should also give an award for the 144 districts of Pakistan also. And this is what actually the constitutional
Dr. Sir,
ये जो हमारी है the constitutional amendment.
okay.
Yeah, this also says that the National Finance Commission should also.
I think on that there's a
alongside the
consensus.
provinces. Where men caucuses are more required in the parliament than women caucuses to keep on discussing this issue of population control. ये तो मर्दों को ज्यादा आगाही देने की जरूरत है, उनके कॉकस बनाने की जरूरत है, उनको इंगेज करने की जरूरत है और उनको ये समझाने की जरूरत है कि भाई ये भी कोई इशू. Then political parties and their workers have to be trained into giving this awareness to their constituents also. They should use their good offices और वहाँ भी ये काम होना चाहिए. And I am happy that finally the time has come that politics and population have come together.
Thank you. And I think that on that note, I'd say there is a national consensus. Yeah.
I just want to make clear. I know the time is running out, but I want to say कि देखिए NFC पे अभी कोई decision नहीं हुई. It will be with the consensus of the provinces also. But I differ here कि ऐसा नहीं होगा कि we leave behind underdeveloped provinces. They will be resources more will be allocated to them, and reduction in provincial जो inequalities हैं, those will be addressed, and stronger provincial autonomy will be encouraged, and better service delivery, which at the moment is not visible, will be there. So, abhi nothing is decided. Every
then-
province will sit down and discuss.
Then you have to untie a constitutional
What let me
and
baat kar
and a state institution NFC that the 18th Amendment very cunningly and conveniently put a restriction on the NFC that whatever share has been previously or in the 7th National Finance Commission allocated to the
Dr. Saab, now
provinces
we are coming to
cannot
financial
be
issues.
reviewed.
I
I
think
think
the
you
population
cannot
part
tie
is
the hands and feet of the constitutional institution. You have to untie that.
I just
Through
like
some
to
constitution.
sum up this very good discussion, riveting discussion rather, that there is a national consensus, perhaps there's a need for a national charter of population for the next 10 years.
Yes.
And you've called for an all-parties conference where all political leaders should be invited. Perhaps that will lead to the release of Imran Khan also. So you can also support that. Thank you very much. And now we have to see a video by one of the ministers.
If it cannot be brought out, it can be on the video also, yeah? You can.
I wish I would have been here personally, but there was certain commitments I couldn't make it. Anyway, it's a modern world and we can use these gadgets. So I'm just joining through this facility. And as we gather for Pakistan Population Summit 2025, we are reminded that population is not merely a statistic, but a story of people, rights and systems that shape dignity, tawazun or balance. It's not just our theme, it's our national responsibility. To restore this balance, we must ensure that every child, whether in Tharparkar or Gilgit, receive equitable health, education and protection. Our policies must reflect women's realities. Gender responsive budgeting directs resources to health, education, mobility, and economic opportunity. Empowering women strengthens families, communities, and sustainable population growth. Accountability is equally critical. I urge parliamentary committees to strictly evaluate public spending, review outcomes, and uphold transparency so that our constitutional guarantees, from the right to education to the right to a clean and healthy environment, translate into meaningful progress for our people. Pakistan's population challenges intersect with climate stress, water scarcity, food security, and rapid urbanization, damaging a coordinated and data driven national response that rises above political cycles and remains rooted in human rights. As its core, population planning is about people, a mother seeking safety, a child seeking opportunity, a family seeking dignity, and our policies must respect this human reality. Thank you so much.